Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Devontae, and I sacrifice my time so you don't have to. You know, it's funny. Last night, when I said I was going to go watch some cartoon shows with my son, you know, kind of get into the Christmas spirit, because I kind of feel like throughout the duration of December, I really haven't been doing a lot of Christmas stuff, which is funny because Christmas is my favorite holiday, and I likes to get down with the festivities, if you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? But nah, truly, check this out though. I'm watching all these cartoon shows, right? Eventually he went to bed, and I started to binge watch some more cartoon shows. I'm like, damn, I'm having too much fun right now. I started to watch Hey Arnold, I started to watch Doug, I started to watch Rugrats, doing some Cow and Chicken, some Johnny Bravo. I'm dead ass serious. I legit binged some cartoon shows for like at least a good 4 or 5 hours. I fell asleep eventually. And you know what I thought about for a second? What do these cartoon shows have in common compared to the stuff that I see nowadays? Because I still keep up with some of the cartoon shows nowadays. Not as nearly as I used to, like say about 5 years ago or 6 or 7 years ago when you had Regular Show and Gumball and, you know, Teen Titans Go. To a certain degree, people may hate on the show, but I'm just saying. Adventure Time, all those shows. We Bare Bears, just, you know, Loud House, Wander Over Yonder. All those shows, Gravity Falls. So I used to keep up with all that shit, like even when I was an adult, because I love cartoon shows. I noticed, even in comparison to those times, but not as drastic, but both of those eras compared to now, you know, I look at the cartoon shows, and it's like you focus on one entity so much, that being like a Teen Titans Go, that being a SpongeBob SquarePants, and you take away from so many other shows. And when you constantly do that so much, eventually people focus on that one show, but not everybody's behind that one show, and it's like all these other shows you're just not even going to focus on anymore, and they're just going to lose so much steam. Now, my thing is this: I don't mind one show being a priority in terms of, like, you know, the star of the channel. You know, like for an example, you got Looney Tunes, you got to have a Bugs Bunny, you know, you got Mickey Mouse and his friends. Well, of course, Mickey Mouse, right? You talk about the star shows on Nickelodeon. Back in the days, it was Rugrats. Today is SpongeBob SquarePants. Cartoon Network, although Cartoon was a little bit more versatile, if you ask me. You know, there was never really a head above shoulders. I mean, maybe you can argue Ed and Eddie, but it was so versatile between Ed and Eddie, Courage the Cowardly Dog, you know, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Dexter, Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo. You can go on and on. That was a lot easier to kind of, you know, move in between with Cartoon Network. But my point being is, though, you know, in the Attitude Era, you had Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? You had The Rock. But, I mean, hell, look at that. Just that example alone. There was not even a legitimate top guy. You still had Rock and Austin sharing the mountaintop, right? With Hulk Hogan, yeah, he was the number one guy, but you had a Randy Savage to fall underneath, right? You had an Andre the Giant to fall underneath. You had a Ted DiBiase. You had an Ultimate Warrior. There were a lot of people that you can actually justify and look at and say to yourself, oh, okay, well, that guy's a star, that guy's a star, that guy's a star, that guy's a star. And I look at today's professional wrestling. It's been going on for the better part of at least, man, it's been going on for a while now. Because even with a John Cena, you can argue still, you had Edge, you had a Randy Orton, for an example, you had Batista, you had Brock Lesnar at the time. There were even still some kind of different stars kind of fidgeting their way through the past, and even some old timers or old heads like a Shawn Michaels or a Triple H or a JBL, for an example, or an Undertaker or a Kurt Angle. You know, those guys still rule the roost to a certain degree, also while still letting your other stars prosper. And even though you're indicating one type of star as a priority, there are still so many people underneath you. And I look at today's professional wrestling, and Roman Reigns, for an example, who is a big star in professional wrestling, the biggest star in professional wrestling, has been put over so hard, has ran through so many people on the roster that, like, no one even feels special anymore. You have Seth Rollins, who's the WWE World Champion, And people are calling for CM Punk to go against Roman Reigns because they kind of feel like CM Punk or Seth Rollins is secondary compared to a Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is the #1 champion. And hopefully that vibe, that way people are interacting with Roman Reigns starts to dissipate once he loses the championship belt. That's my main thing as to why I would like a Cody Rhodes to win the WWE championship, is that because with him having the WWE championship, you can argue obviously Cody is probably still top priority compared to a Seth Rollins because he took the belt off of Roman Reigns, but you can see how it's going to gradually start to equate a little tiny bit. Hell, you may even make an argument that maybe it would be on par if, say, a CM Punk won it, because CM Punk has more star power than the Seth Rollins, and Cody Rhodes beat Roman Reigns, the top guy. So you can even argue, yeah, they are on par with each other. But this goes to this whole point of like, dude, you are going out of your way to kill all your stars. And it's not just a Roman Reigns doing it, because it's the booking of the superstars. It's just the overall feeling of gloom and doom to know that you can look at all these superstars and say to yourself that no one really stands out anymore. And it's like, oh, it's so hard to create talent nowadays. Is it really hard to create talent nowadays? I've been saying this for the longest. Whether you're talking about AEW, whether you're talking about WWE, it's not hard to create talents if you know what you're doing from a pop culture standpoint, as far as following the correlation or following the trend, or what is happening currently in pop culture. People can say whatever they want as far as like, oh, well, we don't want to touch on this because it's too political. Well, here's the thing. Politics nowadays is pop culture. It's not even a downtrend of pop culture. Pop culture is politics. Whether you have your musicians or your favorite actor or your favorite sports or team members or whatever the case may be, athletes, these people dwell so much within politics. Even the politicians nowadays have now become the superstars. Hell, people talk all the time and say that Donald Trump was the first ever celebrity to be a president. You can make an argument that someone like an Obama was one of the first ever celebrity presidents. I don't remember seeing George W. Bush going on MTV. I don't remember seeing George W. Bush going out of his way to talk about having parties at the White House and having Jay-Z and Beyonce come over there all invited and stuff like that, right? Nah, Obama was the first ever celebrity. Just because he wasn't a celebrity turned president first doesn't mean he wasn't a celebrity who was a president, right? And that's okay, but I'm making a broader point. My point is politics has become pop culture. And what you should be doing, very, very lightly, no one is saying you have to go out there and go full AEW, anti-Semitic, Israel. You ain't got to do all of that, obviously. But there are certain things in politics that I feel you should touch on, and you should have a pretty nice way as far as how you want to tell your story and put a person into a position to really milk what's going on currently in pop culture, and which is politics and everything, and that's how you build superstars. For an example, you have the BLM stuff going on currently right now, right? You mean to tell me that you won't do something with the New Day in regards to the BLM stuff? Obviously, if you remember, like 10 years ago when the New Day first started, it kind of felt like they were going in that direction when you had Xavier Woods dressing up like a cosplay Malcolm X. It felt like they were going in that position, but something along the lines of that, so you can start building up other people who are... Carmelo Hayes could be a person who could be breaking out of that group, for an example, right? That's just a perfect example of what could be going on right now in WWE. You look at the women's rights and the women's marches and all this other stuff. You mean to tell me you can't take someone like a Bayley, or you can't take someone who needs the help, like a Chelsea Green, for an example, an actual pretty decent talent who has nothing to really grasp onto, so she has to go out there looking like a jobber every fucking match? You mean to tell me that you can't grasp onto that? You did it somewhat, kind of, when you had Bryan Danielson when he was on WWE television and SmackDown back in 2019, portraying that whole vegan gimmick, being a straight up uber vegan, fucking progressive, annoying motherfucker talking about saving the world and climate change and all this other bullshit, which Bryan Danielson believes in real life, by the way. But that's something that what I mean as far as creating superstars, and sitting here and trying to tell me that a guy can go out there and wrestle a 25-minute match for a couple of weeks and then do that every month and then every year, and then he says something on the microphone that's scripted and he's now positioned as a top star. That is making a star. No, that's not making a star. That's you positioning a star. That's not making a star. There's a big difference between having a wrestler and a superstar. And I feel like professional wrestling, at least the business end today, and even to a certain degree the professional wrestling fans, they don't understand today the professional. I don't mean the yesteryear professional wrestling fans, because those guys have left. The reason why they left is because there are no more superstars. No one for them to actually hang their hat on to and say to themselves, that's my guy. I've been saying for the longest, I no longer have a favorite in professional wrestling today. I may say I like certain guys like a Gunther or a Bryan Danielson, for an example, but all my favorite wrestlers are legacy wrestlers that I grew up with when I was a kid. My favorite wrestlers are still the Chris Jerichos of the world. My favorite wrestlers are still the Hardy Boys of the world. My favorite wrestlers are the Litas of the world. Hell, it's gotten so bad that some of my favorite wrestlers aren't even around anymore, like a Chris Benoit, for an example. Judge the wrestler, not the character. Shut the fuck up. My point being is, though, if you were to actually go out there and have people go out there and actually be more, I don't want to say like, guys, it's kind of hard. People may take the whole political persuasion and connection and say to themselves, well, now you're bringing politics to professional wrestling. We're trying to get away from that. Not if you do it like that. No one is saying you have to be. That's the reason why I say the Attitude Era was so fun, because they were politically incorrect. They made fun of politics without having to be so serious about the politics. That's what made it so fun. That's why it was politically correct. You had people out there like the NWA. Now, granted, the Attitude Era was a couple of years after this, but I'm just giving an example. Hip-hop in general, if you even want to say that. And this kind of extends to John Cena going into the Ruthless Aggression era. The hip-hop generation that was growing up with gangster rap and stuff like that, having the parental advisory on the bottom left-hand corner or the bottom right-hand corner of an album, and you had presidential candidates and people talking about how gangster rap is ruining the culture and how television is being more raunchy and all this other kind of stuff. And what did WWE do? What did WWE do? They took advantage of that, and they gave you Val Venis. They gave you The Godfather, for an example. You know what I mean? They gave you D-Generation X. They even poked fun at themselves and created the right to censor. These are gimmicks and superstars that people remember. You had legitimate superstars in the mid-card. You had legitimate superstars in the mid-card. That's what I mean when I say you have to touch on politics without having to go out of your way to be offensive in any manner. You don't have to be offensive. You can have an old guy walking around called Bo Jiden, for an example, and he's making a clumsy fool out of himself. That's what I mean. You could do shit like that. You know what I mean? You can have a guy going out there, and I think Drew Gulak was doing that for a little time, but when he was on 205 Live, right? The whole little, I'm your president, vote for me to be shit like that, but put it on people who fucking matter. I like Drew Gulak, but I'm just being honest. Stuff like that. That's what I want to see more in my professional wrestling, because that's what makes superstars. Unfortunately, I can't say anything along the lines of this and say to myself that, oh, well, AEW is going to do, because that's not what they are, and that's not what they even want to put themselves into, because they're too fucking lazy, and they want to use the facade of, well, we have our marginalized wrestling community who wants to see more wrestling, because our definition of alternative to WWE is being more wrestling, not that we're a legitimate alternative and actually supplying something different. No, it's that we're completely... You get what I'm saying, right? You get what I'm saying. You hear the sarcastic straw man voice. You understand where I'm going with this, right? But I look at something like WWE and I say to myself, Triple H, especially with Shawn Michaels, what he's doing in NXT, is just a damn shame that it's a bunch of nobodies in NXT, which is supposed to be that way regardless, because it's a farming system in the end of the day. It's a developmental system. They can say whatever they want as far as being a third brand. Okay, you can split hairs, say it's a third brand because it's on cable television, but it's a developmental system just because you're still using terminology like being called up from the main roster, for an example, right? You can't have it both ways, but if you want to, let's just say, let's just say that, right? You look at NXT, and what is Shawn Michaels doing? He's trying to create characters, something that you can actually link onto so you can have legitimate stories around without having to consistently shoot from the hip, brother, because we've been doing this shoot from the hip, brother shit for about 10 years now. You would think sooner or later people get bored with this shit. And of course they are getting bored with the shit. And I know that they're getting bored with this shit because look at the ratings currently right now at the moment. Look at the Attitude Era and look at what's going on right now. Look at what was happening during the Hogan era and look at what's going on right now. Now, you don't go overly absurd and you start doing new generation gimmick jobs every fucking way like a goddamn plumber or a fucking hockey player. No, you don't go that route. You don't have to make someone a fucking trash man. Okay, you don't have to go that far. But at the same time, having something relevant to what's going on within pop culture and making that a fucking gimmick, nothing wrong with that at all. That's how you cultivate names. That's how you make people superstars. And hell, even from an intellectual standpoint or IP standpoint, intellectual property, I look at something like that and I say to myself, WWE, well, at the very least, if you do something along the lines of that, you can actually copyright it. You can trademark it, right? So you don't get a situation, for an example, where you have like Razor Ramon going to WCW and he's Scott Hall. Well, he can't really take the Razor Ramon gimmick with him, for an example. He may portray some elements of it, but you can obviously just say that Scott Hall turned to 10, for an example, because he was pretty much turned up to 10 with Razor Ramon. So I'm just saying that's also, as far as WWE is concerned, in my opinion, that also kind of hides whatever they're trying to do to make sure, or not hide, but make sure they don't go to another company and take whatever they want to do to another company. So then they have to actually become themselves, right? That's what I'm saying. Certain things like that. It helps everybody out overall. I want to see more superstars in professional wrestling. I no longer want to see just wrestlers, okay? I don't. I'm done with just the actual wrestling aspect. Going around and saying, whoa, guy, let me meet you in the ring. We have a 15-minute false finish match, okay? Without any type of element tied into making the fucking match fun anymore. The concept of the match being fun is what the fuck they're doing in the ring. You can still have that element while still being characters. So the promos are fun. So you can actually tell a legitimate story within the match surrounding around your character. So these things can actually have some kind of build to it without having to actually focus so much on the angle aspect. For the lazy bookers out there like a Tony Khan who hates fucking angles for some fucking reason, and don't sit here and tell me he doesn't. Well, Devontae, did you not see the angle? No, because if you love angles, he'd be promoting that throughout the show and putting these high caliber matches that he has every fucking week on pay-per-view. So please, miss me with the nonsense if he actually cares for angles. I want to see more superstars within my professional wrestling. Is that too much to ask for? I guarantee you will make wrestling a lot more palatable than what the fuck you're seeing today. You even get some glimpses of it, and you guys fucking love what the hell you see out of it. Look at a Tony Storm, for an example, right? One of the few instances where fucking AEW actually attempted to make a fucking character. You guys love that shit right there, right? To a lesser degree, you look at something like a Tribal Chief gimmick, right? That whole Tribal Chief storyline that happened earlier this year and the later portions of 2022, nothing about that was shoot. Nothing, not one iota of that storyline was taking elements from real life and having to expand upon it. No, what you got out of the angle were a bunch of characters telling a story. Let me ask you guys a question, and you be perfectly honest with me. Be honest with me, okay? Be honest with me. What would you rather see? As a matter of fact, I'll make that a poll while this video is uploaded. I'm very curious. What was better? The Summer of Punk angle in 2011 or the Tribal Chief gimmick with Sami Zayn going throughout 2022 and 2023? Now, I don't know what you guys would choose, but for me personally, I would definitely say the Tribal Chief gimmick was a lot better than the CM Punk angle. Not to say the CM Punk angle was bad. Not to say that in itself, it didn't serve a purpose for its time. Because it was innovative, it was unique, it was new. The only problem is everybody's trying to do the fucking CM Punk angle today, and no one's getting over with it. But guess what? If we got more of the Roman Reigns stuff, more of the Tribal Chief characters and stuff like that, look at that. It's infinite, because you're actually focusing on characters and superstars, and you can do whatever you want. Anybody can do whatever the fuck they want, because it's fake. There's no having to shoot from the hip and make yourself a night with it. Make yourself just another fucking person shooting from the hip, brother. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. You go in this direction and you start to focus on more characters and you build up superstars, more stories become available and more people become draws, and more people become more aligned with, the superstar jargon. And, now you can actually get people who are invested in certain characters like you would with a movie, like you would with a television show, like you would with music, like anything else in entertainment. It's professional wrestling. It's not hard. It's easily malleable. And it's just like professional. It's pre-fucking determined. Okay, it's not a real fucking sport. You just fuck yourself over in the end of the day by doing shit that is not necessitated at all. And you make it boring for no reason. It's not sports. It's not the UFC, but they have to get super fucking cringe and make believe that these two UFC fighters are really this heated at each other, throwing shit and breaking shit. It's cringe when UFC does it because they're real. They're combat sports. And professional wrestling, this is your element. This is the hill that you die on. As a matter of fact, it's so synonymous with professional wrestling that when they try to do stupid angles like that in football or in UFC or in boxing or whatever sport, they're usually mocked by being called that WWE thing. Oh, look at them. They think they're the WWE. That's how fucking synonymous it is with professional wrestling. But I guess I'm just here shouting in the void, right? Of course, you're going to get someone who's going to come in the comment section and everybody has to be a fucking contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian. Never a contrarian for the right reasons. Never being devil's advocate to try to play up to the pros and cons of what the fuck I'm talking about. It's, well, let me just take this minuscule point and bring it up and then tell you why I, in my opinion, without having any type of factual backing behind it, has to present it to you and tell you why this is the main point, because I just need to be argumentative for the sake of being argumentative, because in reality, I disagree with your entire plot, but I can't really dismiss it, so let me just bring up this minute. I get it. I understand. I get it. It's just annoying, and I wish you would just stick to the fucking point, but that is all I have to say about the video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you hear? Do you hear? Do you see? Do you meet? Do you know? Do you understand? Do you comprehend? Comprende? Do you understand where I'm coming from, right? I don't think I'm actually having to explain this too much to the old heads, because they come from the same generation, they come from the same era, they come from the respective eras, but we all understand how professional wrestling got over. We all understand how we got into professional wrestling. We didn't get into professional wrestling because we've seen some guy do a cart flip, kick flip out to the ring, and then they landed in thumbtacks, and they got some jammed up with their ass, and then they got up bleeding from their ass. So no, none of us got into professional wrestling. We got into professional wrestling because we've seen the Hogans, we've seen the Savages, we've seen the Andres, we've seen the Ted DiBiase's, we've seen the Rock, we've seen the Austins, the Shawn Michaels, even the Bret Hart to a lesser degree. At least he had fucking sunglasses. That's more I can say than most of these goddamn wrestlers nowadays, right? You got the Stings of the world, the Vaders, the Undertakers of the world, the Kanes, the Big Shows, even the Jerichos of the world, even hell, and the Ruthless Aggression, the John Cena's of the world, the Batistas. Everybody has something to attach to, and that's why they became superstars. It wasn't just being a wrestler. They were superstars. And if you can't understand that, if you feel that professional wrestling is super healthy right now because according to you, the business, the numbers, all the metrics and variables that go into all this doesn't matter in the end of the fucking day, doesn't matter what the entertainment is showing me on my television, then I guess you're just a lost cause at the end of the day. And hell, man, believe what the hell you want to believe. Don't let me stop you. As always, my name is Devontae, and I'll like to be catching all you fine motherfuckers later. Like to be catching you motherfuckers. There I go again, going full retard with how I'm talking right now. I got to give you a better conclusion. Okay, I will be catching all you fine folks and gents later, and even some of the women in the crowds. Okay, rub your vagina for me. I love you too. Don't smell your hand though. Deuces. P. Eyes.